Greetings and salutations, YouTube family and friends. T-Rav Vlogs here. What's up, guys? So far on Convention Memories, we've talked about my attending a convention in cosplay, and then eventually heading to a convention in cosplay to a local convention that continues to happen year after year. So with all that firmly established, I want to look at a certain aspect of the conventions that I've attended. And this particular aspect happens to be the dealer's room. Now, in the dealer's room, merchants gather from all over to sell their wares that are usually related to the subject matter of the convention. You can have things like DVDs, video games, shirts and apparel, figurines, plushes, all kinds of different stuff. You name it, the dealer's room probably has it. So, with all the conventions that I have attended, what is the merchandise that I tend to go after? There's usually something I'm bringing home after every convention, and it's always the same thing. So what exactly is that one thing? Well, let's find out today on Convention Memories. As stated in the intro, there are so many things one can pick up in the dealer's room depending on your interest. If you need to expand your anime collection, they've got something for that. You need to add a few more shirts to your wardrobe, they've got something for that. And for me, and I'm sure you probably know this already by seeing some of my previous videos, I have a thing for Japanese and Asian snacks. Every time I go to a convention, I have got to come home with at least a few snacks that happen to survive the convention weekend. Most of them get eaten throughout the course of the convention, but I do like to bring some home for future tastings, if you will. Now, even before my convention foray, I was alerted to the existence of Japanese snacks by a friend of mine who had attended conventions previously, and she kind of told me a little bit about this snack that's very popular at conventions called Pocky. Now, for all of my convention friends, y'all already know what the buzz is about Pocky. But for those of you who don't know, Pocky is a biscuit stick, or I guess you could say kind of an unsweetened bread stick that is dipped in chocolate or other particular flavors. The most basic one is chocolate, but as I came to find out when I went to conventions, Pocky comes in all sorts of different flavors, shapes, sizes. There's regular size, there's jumbo, there's cookies and cream, banana, strawberry, mousse, all kinds of different Pocky that's out there. And Pocky is really just one facet of the Japanese snack world. I knew snacks were going to be a big thing when I attended Kunikon. When we went into the dealer's room there, the first table I stopped at happened to be a snack vendor. And I was just kind of looking at things, not really sure what I wanted because, honestly, I had never tried any of these snacks before, so I didn't really know what to expect. I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to begin. Should I go with basic chocolate Pocky, or should I check some of these things out over here that looked a little tantalizing? Most of the brand names I couldn't read anyway, but it all looked pretty delicious. But while I was looking at the snacks, a lady came up next to me and slammed, I believe it was a $20 bill down on the table, and asked the merchant there, "How much Pocky will this get me?" And I realized then and there that Pocky was a big deal at conventions, and Japanese snacks in general were. So of course, I had to try some, and immediately fell in love. They're simplistic snacks, but they're pretty delicious, and they're a gateway into other snacks as well. Told you about all the different Pocky, but there are also things like Yan Yan, which is basically Pocky you dip yourself. You get the little biscuit stick and then you dip it in chocolate. It's kind of like a Japanese version of Dunkaroos, if you will. But that's not all. There's all kinds of other snacks as well. Another personal favorite of mine happens to be Haichu, which is kind of starting to take off mainstream now. I've seen it in other department stores as well. That's kind of like a cross between taffy and Starburst. Definitely one of my favorites. There's also Japanese gummies, Japanese hard candies. They seem to have a love for ramune flavored candies, which ramune happens to be a fizzy Japanese soda. Another thing that you can grab at conventions as well, mind you. But those tend to be rather chalky, and I'll link you to a video up there where I reviewed a bunch of Japanese snacks from Japan Crate that had some of the chalky ramune flavored hard candy in there that I wasn't so much a fan of, but if that's your thing, then definitely go for it, because it certainly is a unique taste. There are also larger snacks, like one of my favorites again, Melon Bread. And again, I will link you to a video here where we went to the Japanese festival at the Botanical Gardens, and I kind of talked about Melon Bread for a little bit. That was another staple that I always had to bring home with me after a convention. I always bought 2 or 3 Melon Bread so I could have that later on. So some Pocky to snack on, some Melon Bread. I usually like to heat it up in the microwave and have it for breakfast because it was a sweet bread. It's pretty good stuff. As conventions started to evolve and grow, there was a particular vendor that I always looked out for, especially when I went to Anime St. Louis, called WYSIWYG, and they were always supplying the convention with premier Japanese snacks. And they were kind of my first foray into, I believe it was crab chips at the time. They were like, it was almost akin to a pork rind, but the outer skin wasn't so rough and crumbly. The inside was super airy and light, but the outside was very smooth. I brought some home to have a friend and I try over at his house, and was like, well, we'll just have a couple of them to try. And I reached into the bag, had one, he did the same, and we did this a couple times, and before we knew it, the entire bag was empty. They were just that good and that addicting. So that began my love for, I guess, the seafood flavored snacks, if you will. So sweet, savory, there was always something to go for at the conventions. Drinks, of course, I mentioned the ramune, the fizzy soda. Everybody had a ramune bottle running around, the little glass ones that you had to pop the marble in order to drink, and there were always people trying to figure out exactly how you were supposed to open those things. I was a little confused at first myself, but once I did it a few times, it wasn't so bad. Another thing I tend to look for, especially nowadays, is royal milk tea. I'm a huge fan of tea anyway. Milk tea is amazing, and I found out about royal milk tea a few years ago. Again, I'll leave another link to videos. I'm going to take you guys way back here. Might as well take a look at some of these memories with me as well, right? Of me drinking some royal milk tea as I was Joker at one of the anime senpais. So Japanese snacks became a staple of my convention experience, and I distinctly remember one year we called it the Dry Con, because that particular year the convention, or rather the hotel, said, listen, we have catering downstairs, we are selling food. Under no circumstances are any vendors allowed to sell food or drink of any type in the dealer's room. So imagine our surprise when we walked into the dealer's room ready to load up on Japanese snacks, and there were none. My whole world came crashing down. I said, well, might as well pack up and go home. No reason to be here. No, it wasn't that bad, but still, not having Pocky and not having Japanese snacks was a little bit odd, honestly, because we had already kind of established it's going to be there, and it becomes a part of the experience. You know you're going to get some, you're going to share it with your friends, you're going to have a great time, and there was none. But luckily, I had a friend who snuck some into the convention, let's just say. He was dressed up as Rob Zombie that night, and we were all sitting around a little bummed because we didn't have any Pocky, and he comes over, his big old black trench coat, opens it up and says, I got the good stuff right here. Pulls out a box of chocolate Pocky, and we just about flipped out. He saved the day. We got our Pocky fixed for that weekend. And then I come to find out later on that chocolate Pocky and strawberry Pocky are a regular thing that you could purchase at Walmart. I live right across the street from Walmart and have for most of my life, and I didn't ever know that. Of course, later on, I came to figure out that there are Asian supermarkets closer into the city that have more snacks and candies than any convention could ever have. The prices are a little bit better, so anytime we need our fix, we can always just go up to one of those grocery stores and load up on it there. Or there are also different subscription services like Japan Crate and Boxu that will bring the Japanese candies and snacks right to your home monthly. So in the event that conventions aren't happening like now, there are alternatives to being able to get your Japanese snacks and candy fixes. So there we have it. my merchandise addiction was Japanese snacks and candy. To this day, I still look for it anytime I go to a convention. I will always have a special place in my heart for the different candies and snacks that I've gotten throughout the years. You can't go wrong with a box of Pocky, be it cookies and cream. My personal favorite was always Almond Crush, where they crushed up the bits of almonds and then dipped it into chocolate. So it was kind of double dipped, and then you had the crunchy almonds on top. Oh, so good. I would always go for that every time I go to a convention, and nowadays it's nice to know that I don't have to always wait around for a convention if I have a hankering for Japanese snacks. So guys, once again, if you like what you're seeing and what you're hearing, don't forget to subscribe down below, hit that little notification bell so you know of any future episodes that I come out with. Still have a few more stories that I want to be able to tell, so stick around for those. I really hope you guys are enjoying this series. I know I'm having a good time going back and reminiscing about all of the memories, and because conventions really aren't a thing right now, it's really all we have. So thank you guys again for watching, for coming to this channel and checking this out with me. Leave me a comment down below if you're liking what you're seeing. I always like to hear from you guys and talk to you about your different experiences as well. Did you have any favorite Japanese snacks when you went to conventions? Have you tried Japanese snacks before? If so, what are your favorites? Let me know in the comments below. We can have a nice discussion about it and get everybody hungry for Japanese snacks. But for now, that's really all I have to say about that. So until next time, I'll talk to you soon, and take care. Bye-bye.